So yes, people, check it in, check it in, check it in, check it in. Welcome back to the platform. Welcome back to the show. We're there again, ready to jump on the live, talking about some football surrounding Reggae Boyz players. You understand? Match live reaction, and yeah, we're in. Yeah, don't forget to smash the like button and also subscribe to the channel. Big up to the newcomers, as usual. Big up to the old posse, yeah, the media house, the media house posse. Big up on yourself, as usual. I don't know the shape. So we're going to discuss some football, and you drop your point as down in the comment section as well. Yeah, let me know what you think. Dixon, U21 Hatrick, yeah, Bodo Glimp create a big storm in the San Siro, and also no side of the young Reggae Boy player, Dujan Whisper. Bobby Reed slapped right back in with a very good game. I understand. Also, local players, is it imminent for a Reggae Boy call up for the big show coming up in March in Mexico? Which young local players deserve to be in the national team, whether or not they deserve or whether or not they don't. You understand? Leave your pointers down in the comment section as usual. Bless up to everybody. You understand? Bless up Elisha Walker as usual. You understand? Salute to you. Blessings. But here we go with some of the action, the UEFA Champions League action. Wow. Newcastle, man, their biggest UEFA Champions League win over any opponent in the tournament, beating Karabag 9-3. Man, it was a massive victory for Newcastle, as I think this game was. I wasn't thinking it was important at St. James Park. They have done their job, over there in Azerbaijan, which I think it was a fantastic win. Not many people, had Newcastle in the first leg to get, an emphatic win like that. Big win for Newcastle. What, 6-1 on the day, I think, in the first leg, and they're through and they're on the bracket of potentially will face Chelsea or FC Barcelona. What a tie. I remember the last time Newcastle was in around this tournament, they had Paris Saint-Germain, I think AC Milan, and another team, Borussia Dortmund, and they got like 5 points in that group. Didn't make it out of that group, not even to the Europa League. And also Atletico Madrid smashed Club Brugge, inside of the capital of Spain, Madrid as well. The Norwegian with an Hatrick swallowed. I mean, it will be another big fixture coming up in the next round for Atletico Madrid. Remember, I think they exit the tournament last campaign, facing their old city rival, their arch rival Real Madrid in the knockout round, where they, boy out, not to qualify for the other round. Also, the big upset in Italy, Bodo Glimp. I mean, my goodness grace, what the hell is going on, inside of the San Siro? I mean, the leaders in the Seria A running away with the Scudetto. Yeah, they came up short against the Norwegian team, 5-2 on the day. This is the first time, in the last, 10 years, I think, since it was the last time when Inter won it, 09-010, beating Bayern Munich in the final at Santiago Bernabeu. A team is getting the best of Inter Milan over both leg in a knockout round. So big up to, Bodo Glimt, man. Massive victory. I was watching that. They stick to the task. It shows you that, man. Listen, man. Underdog story. Anybody really love an underdog story? You understand? So Inter Milan fold after just recently went to the final versus Man City. Now they are out of the playoff, out of the whole segment. Now they can fully focus in on how they can recapture their Scudetto title. And also in Bayer Leverkusen, yes, Bayer Leverkusen, gone through. Their next opponent probably will be FC Bayern or Arsenal. Bodo Glimt might face Man City or Sporting Lisbon over there in Portugal. So that's it for the UEFA Champions League roundup, people. So big up on yourself as usual, checking in as usual. But what happened, man, in the EFL for the Reggae Boy players? I mean, thumping 5-1 for QPR. I was watching that game. And I think Isaac Hayden had a scare in that game. Yes, Isaac Hayden had a scare in that game. Thought he picked up an injury, but the player run it off like a foot soldier up on the battlefield. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the best game. Southampton had the, majority of the football. I mean, the midfield, kind of starve, the QPR midfield, Southampton midfield kind of starve the QPR midfielders. They just couldn't get in around on the pitch. I just think, the better team won on the day. And if you ask me, it was a very good shift. Again, you want to see, your six, one of the most important player, Isaac Hayden, getting in around the minutes as well. I have something as well that also written down as well around Isaac Hayden for for QPR. There's no show for Ramon Burrell as yet, but good to see that the Reggae Boyz player is getting some minutes. And remember, a few match days back, versus Blackburn, he picked up an assist. This year alone, Isaac Hayden have played in all 10 games that QPR was involved in. And that shows that the players getting consistent minutes. Yes, whether or not players are dropping like flies in that midfield department for Queen's Park Rangers. So 10 games in all competition this year alone for Isaac Hayden. Almost 1,000 minutes. Almost played 1,000 minutes in this year alone. You know how many minutes Isaac Hayden played last year? The start of the campaign from August until December. Isaac Hayden have played 198 minutes. So that shows you that the big turnaround. Yes, with I think the Martinique player, Varane went down, I think a month or a month and a half, picking up, injuries in back-to-back spells. That also give the player, some leeway to get back into the team and to show that, listen, man, I deserve, to be in around this team. And he's getting some very valuable minutes. And this will help, or should help, for the national team. And I think, this year of 2026 is probably one of the best year, for Isaac Hayden in many seasons now, of him getting, games after games, midweek, weekend, even when, his team, is not getting the best of result, you could see the effort, and that is what really needed, the effort, just to take a little bit of shame away from your eye. But one thing do I really like as well, the start of the second half, he was trying to press, that Southampton midfield, a bit high. But then I said, man, the midfielders for the Saints, they're just too clever. It's like they always have an extra man in that midfield. But Isaac Hayden, man, when you talk about minutes, valuable minutes for the player, you understand? So as I said, for this year alone, Isaac Hayden have played, all 10 games for Queen's Park Rangers, involving all 10 games in our competition, and played, over 800 minutes just in 2026. And of last year, from August till December, just 198 minutes played. And also in the game that just played versus Southampton, another central midfielder went down. The Danish player, what's his name again? I think his name is Madsen, went down with an hamstring injury, where, I think that hamstring injury happened around the first 30 minutes of the game. So you're looking at the really only fit, true and true first team player in that squad, who played in the six, who's available at this moment, at a 90-minute can play at any given time, is Isaac Hayden. So, valuable minutes will be coming his way. That's what you need at times, just, to get a break in. And he really latched on his opportunity. And, a few match days back when he got that assist versus Blackburn, yes, things are not being so good, for Queen's Park Rangers. They're just, 7 points away from the playoff spot. But the manager really speak good every time he asks a question around Isaac Hayden. And that's what you like to see. And also, no show. Yes, no show for Bailey Karamateri, yet to get off that bench. Is it that the player signed a big money move from Yorkshire to North Wales to just to sit on the bench? I wonder if Bailey Karamateri know how much nails run through the bench at Wrexham. But his team won again, beating Portsmouth 2-1 at home. Let me tell you this. No show for Biel Kadama theory. Yes, their team is 9 points away from that automatical qualifying spot. The team that sits in second, which is Middlesbrough, I think, or Ipswich, one of those teams. But in the last four games, where Wrexham is on an unbeaten run, their strikers that played in the attacking third is either the two number 9 or the false 9 slash number 10, which normally be Josh Winders at times. They have scored 6 goals in total. And the other striker that brought in as well in the winter transfer window, alongside Bailey, he's coming from Barnsley. He had only played one game so far. One game the players plays so far. So Phil Parkinson is yet to really give the two players that he brought in to help to strengthen and fill the gap in the attacking third for Wrexham. No show for Bailey Kadama theory. I think after this weekend they will play a game, and I think the next weekend should be the FA Cup. Let's see if Bailey will get a run out in the next two games, as it will be crucial, man. And they will be pushing for a promotion spot. So more likely, against Chelsea at home, more probably will rotate a bit, to give their players a bit of rest. So I don't know, man. It's very strange. Look, it's a very strange world Bailey Kadamatir is living in at this moment. I mean, let me know, like, will you guys still be thinking about Bailey Kadama theory, getting, that nod when it comes up to that trump card game versus New Caledonia? Is he the man, CMA, for the job for Rudolph Speed in that first game coming up next month? With him not getting no minutes, it's worrying time. The last 3 games, he's out. The first one where he was available, no show. Wasn't even in the match day squad. So let me know what you guys really think about Bailey Kadama theory. Luton Town, beat Plymouth. Casey Palmer came off the bench. I did not see that game. I was surely watching that Wrexham game, but Luton Town beating Plymouth 2-1 in the EFL Trophy, where they will play Northampton in the semi-final of that EFL Cup competition. So bit of rotation for Jack Wilshere, very much needed. Again, win. They needed this win after it was a dull moment in their last game. But rotation, why Casey Palmer, was left out in the starting level for Luton Town as well. What's next? I have another game. I was trying to see this game on our website. The Brandon Cover, very interested role that he played around Rotterdam, his team beating 1-0 on the road versus Bradford City. He played. It's set up as that game was set up as him playing as a number 10. But when I really look on the player heat map, couldn't get through that link. That link wasn't feasible, to be honest. It wasn't possible. Link was weak. Couldn't get in touch in around that game. But looking at so far score as well with him and trying to see, is it that Brandon Cover playing as a number 10 as what I saw on foot map, went over on the heat map, seeing that he played as a right winger. He's a man for all the jobs and the football pitch, just like James Milner, right back, 6, anywhere on either side of the wing. You understand? So Brandon Cover is a man that he's a man for all of the roles. What else I'm missing? Also, another game where the Leicester game. Yes, finally, I got to this game. I started to watch this game, I think probably around the 45th, close to halftime, because I came off road a bit late, and I was watching it, man. I was like, look back at the highlights where they're giving, the recap during the halftime break. And let me say this, like, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for Whisper to get into this team. The team is not really good, but the video that I did earlier this morning, where the manager talk about more likely relying on experienced players. I think, let me see if I can find some of the quotes. Yes. So I got it up here right on screen on the computer, where it said, it just, quoting, Gary Rowett, the Leicester City manager, in this pre-game show where he did with the Leicester City official website TV. It says that it just means it's hard to change some of those moments to be able to manage games in certain ways, you can't wave a magic wand and suddenly create a solution for everything. That's going to take a little bit of time, get players back. That's going to mean having a slightly more mature, stronger bench. We have got some great young players who have worked really hard in training and have been impressive. But sometimes, you under pressure at this stage of the season, you want some calmer, you want some calmer head who have done it before, and that ability to change, we are not going to solve it overnight. So Gary, being a bit clever, in his recap, as well, talking about, the build-up of the game that just played a while ago away to Middlesbrough, one of the top team in the championship, saying that, look, it's not going to take an overnight situation where it's going to fix, and he's going to depend on, experienced players, and he need players to be back. And, we see the last game, two experienced players, one of them is probably Leicester City player of the year already. Abdul Fattah was missing, Jordan Ayew, was missing, and it's still no show, for the young Reggae Boy player, Dojan Whisper Richards, at the 360 Stadium versus Stoke City. Bobby Day-Cover-Reid was facing his final suspension, no show for the player, so back-to-back games now. Whisper is missing on the pitch for Leicester City. But many people would say, this team is a trash. People would say Jordan and Patson, the two number 9s, they are not up to par. They are not doing the job. Why not give, a younger player or someone else, who probably can deliver in that role. But looking at this manager, I don't even know why Leicester City go for this manager. The last time out, he was at Greg Lay team where he got sacked. Yes, he would have saved them when he got appointed, scratch-free away from relegation zone, not to drop down to League One. But again, this manager is pedigree over the last 4 managerial, position that he held in the past. It's all sack, and he just played there like manager for like a year or two, in those roles. So he's not that credible manager, in his last roles, but he's a very experienced manager at this junction in the championship. But Whisper, I mean, just watching, the game, the highlights of the first half. I watched the entire second half. As I said, I was watching this on a site. But I see Bobby Reid, he was instrumental to everything that they were trying to do, in the attacking third. This player named Devin Mokesia, this player, he is the real deal for Leicester City. He came in, he slapped right in, and the Bobby Reid red card did this player a lot of favor for him to get in this starting level. So now I'm looking at it now. Jordan Ayew, came on for Dhaka. Yeah, I think I have it right here. They also brought on, the Nigerian player Aribo, for Mavidi on that left-hand side. So in the back end of the game, the last quarter of the game, he kind of bring on, a more of a 8/10 to replace a out and out left winger to really solidify everything in that midfield too. Because look, the Middlesbrough team was really, playing some very good football, to be honest. And they're just trying to make sure, look, they lock up shop, they don't lose the game. They probably can walk out with a point that would be enough, against a team that is fighting for promotion. So I'm just looking at it, man, looking at the changes. And then the young player, Mukesa, came off in the game, and they brought in a young player named Page, who is normally a 6 and a 8, to replace a player that was in the number 10 position at point as well, was kind of interchanging with Bobby Reid from the right wing to the number 10 role. And again, I'm looking at Whisper and I'm like, yo, with players expect to be back. Yeah, with players expect to be back, very soon. A player like Jordan James, who's scoring one of the leading goal scorer for Leicester City this campaign. And I think someone else, expect to be back. I think Chowdhury, the central midfielder as well. So when all these players come back, where will be the spot for Duchan? Will he get a fair chance? But I have no issue. But these are the questions, you really have to ask. Like, what is the purpose of getting him? Is it because the team was going through a turmoil of so many players out in around the injury table as well? Why they really brought him in and brought in another youngster as well. But one is working, but the other one, which is Dujan, is yet to really get started. But I'm not worried. This is a learning curve. This is what happened in the EFL system. This is what happened around changes of managers. Not saying that, the newly appointed manager who have just managed 2 games already for Leicester doesn't know anything about Whisper, which he said in his pregame preview building up to the Middlesbrough game that just ended, said that, look, I have some youngsters who are impressive in training, and I'm hoping that one of those youngsters is Dujan Whisper. This is what the player can only do, is to just sit back, in training, give it your all, go out there, fight for your game, be impressive, in training, don't be lethargic in around the training ground. Don't let the manager see that, you're being slack off. Make the manager know that, listen, you're going to be up for it, and until your contract run out, you're going to fight until the end of this Leicester story. You understand? But at this point, for me, what I'm seeing with the football, what I'm seeing with some of the changes that, both Andy King and Gary Rowett is making at this moment, they are fancying, changes in the back end of the game where they're more likely, trying to solidify things in the midfield, trying to make a stopgap of not to concede, to lose a full 3 points, or more of to keep what they have, which is a point in the last 2 games. So I'm looking at it, man. Leicester next 2 games, it's only going to get even tougher. Yeah, it's only going to get even tougher from here. Leicester next 2 games. I think I can find it. They're just 1 point, away from 1 point from safety. Really need that point to get out of the relegation. West Brom is another team that is in front of them as well. And I'm trying, to find the Leicester. Yeah, I'm trying to find the next fixture. So the next fixtures up for Leicester, it's just going to only be tough, man. Like Norwich at home, yes, Norwich is not in the best of form. They just, really came out from the relegation zone, but they're just 5 points. Yeah, that's 5 points, away from Leicester City. So they need that win. They need that win at home coming up on Saturday. And then the next game will be Ipswich away. That is another team right up there again that is sit in third. Tough team, one of the better team in the championship. So, that's what I'm saying. When Dujan signed for Leicester, I was happy, but I was saying, man, you have to lower your expectation. This is a championship. Nothing is a given right here. You only need 1 or 2 chances. Yeah, you only need 1 or 2 chances to take someone game and in around that starting level. And I'm looking at it now, like Abdul Fattah, is probably closer, going into the next game versus Norwich coming up on Saturday. He will more likely be, more fitter than, this game that he just played earlier. Yeah, he has to start on that right hand side. What the coach I got to do with Mukesia, someone who have 3 goals contribution in the last 2 games, playing in Bobby Reid, number 10 role, in this team. Remember, Bobby Reid scored 4 goals alone in December, yeah? And he was a star of a show before he got that red card versus Birmingham. And I'm looking at it now, Mavidi, is typically that man that normally start on the left-hand side. Now you're looking at the 2 African wingers for Leicester. What the coach I got to do with the number 10 role, and what am I going to do with the number 9? It seems like all the coaches favor Jordan more than Patson. So where will be the spot for young Dujan Whisper? That's why, man, next time, Dujan get his game, him even after go try to create miracle, even if it's 5 minutes, him after go try to create miracle to stamp him class, leave a big impression of saying, listen, I am the right man right here at this moment. I deserve to get more minutes. And if him can beat down the door, him have to go be good. Him have to go start it from in around the training ground where the manager is really looking. But when you have manager at this moment, looking at more experienced players, his eyes are only on the prize of getting out of this rut. Yeah, it's going to be tough. It's going to be even tougher than when enough we even really looking at the situation now. So, the manager is there just for the end of the campaign. So he will want to leave a very good mark. He have a little bit of attachment to this club. He once was a player for this football club. So let's see what he will do. But Leicester have some very good youngsters. Page is one of them, Monga is one of them, Mukasa is there, Dujan is there. You understand? So it's going to be tough for him. And I said, when Jordan James come back, he's another attacking player. He scored loads of goals this campaign already. And he scored in some clutch games, winning valuable points before the 6 points deduction came in. So when he came back, he's going to be one of the favorite because he is a proven championship player. And he has proven all season long that he deserved to get the start. And Bobby Reid really get into this team because Jordan James went down injured and Bobby Reid took his opportunity. Bobby Reid missing for the last 3 games before today. Mukasa came in from a new club, actually take Bobby Reid position. So this is where Whisper Africa do. Whisper Africa body top on the training ground, and when him match time come, him Africa try. I don't know how him gonna do it, but him Africa try, bad up the game and take somebody's spot in around that Leicester team. This is how it works in the lower league. This is how it works, and for fair bit of well, this is how it works around in world football. You understand? But a dog eat dog when it comes on to the lower tier position in around EFL League 1 and League 2. It shows you that, man. I said it as well this morning that there is a Watford youngster. I think his first 15 days, he have went through 4 coaches. How is it that your first 15 days at the football club, you have passed through 4 coaches? That is impossible. The man got it and see a coach. The coach get fired. The next interim man come, them get appointed. It never work out. Next one and get a new interim. It's impossible. Like, how can you get so many coaches in less than 3 weeks? This is a championship for you. You understand? It's like hyenas hunting for food in the jungle. That's what you get. You understand? So, I mean, let me know, man. Like, what's your thoughts? Because Craig Butler and Whisper, management crew, they would have some idea because this was swinging around for the last 12 months or so since I say right after Leicester City got relegated. This was in the ear of at some point, is either when they go back up or at some point in the championship, there will be some points deduction from the Leicester points table. And yes, they would have an idea said this was on the card, but no clue of when this was going to transpire. It did transpire days before Whisper signed, days after Whisper signed. So it's just the nature of the game. This is football. Whisper Africa learn from these moments, sitting on the bench, looking at the players on the pitch, knowing that, in your mind that, I can do better than a lot of these players. That's the mindset you want to see him have as well. Hold his head up. It's not the end of the world. You are not a permanent Leicester player, but this is the learning curve of the game. This is what it comes. This is what comes with it when you play in the EFL Championship. So that's all I have to say around that game, the Leicester game. But, it's just going to get even tougher. They grabbed the lead. Bobby Reid, was very critical in around the build-up as well. Mukasa, was very critical in around the build-up as well, for the moment Leicester in that attacking third, they were in front. But Middlesbrough really crawled back and they got in their shape and started to play some football. And then at one point, Leicester was suffering. Like they were suffering. That's why they made some changes, taking off a few, wingers and bringing players that can run, players that going to, to close up the midfield. And that's what they did. They didn't, bring Whisper off the bench because I don't know, for some different reason. Maybe not fancying the player and maybe the coach saying that, listen, it's just not this time at this moment. It's not the game to unleash, the 4-4. But when will be that time? Only God knows. Only God knows when that will be Dojan Whisper time. But what I'm getting as well, from moving on from the EFL, I think I've covered everything around some of the players that's played in the EFL today. So Richard King red card was overturned, by the Scottish FA. Remember seeing not whisper Richard King foolish to the laptop, and I was this is the act was overturned by the Scottish FA. So young Richard King will be available for the next game, I think, which should be Livingston on the weekend. Yeah, so the red card has overturned. There's no more punishment, no violent of conduct for Richard King. Yeah, no red card. Red card was removed away from Richard King. So the player will be available for the next upcoming game for St. Mirren. And that's clearly very good news for Richard King. Many people are saying that, the referee, he's like it was a racist act. But I was like, when I was rewatching this game, right? I've said it again. I'm going to say it again. The referee back was turned. Yes, I was looking directly, at the linesman on that side. I was like, is he really looking directly to that play? Where is VAR? Yeah, like I was like in the moment, like what VAR really I do? They're not gonna really overturn and tell the referee to go to the screen and look at this play to say that the player did not even touch him. So this was madness. This was madness of the referee. But glad to see that the player, red card was overturned and he will be available for the next upcoming game. But the big man, hit the onion bag 3 times this morning. Dixon showing, that, listen, man, the under 21, this is way above my level, but this is where I'm at this moment. And we just have to go to score some goals and hope for the best coming in the next transfer window. Yeah, but what's your guys' takes, man, and the Dixon, Hatrick that he got early this morning versus Swansea U21 team. He's playing at home in Charlton, where he grabbed, that was a very good finish, by young Dixon. Very good finish. I think I like the second goal the most. Yeah, I think I like the second goal the most. Let's see when this one really pop up. The second goal, I think this is it. I really like it as well, Ball was on the left-hand side. Really like this one. This one was a very good goal. Yeah, this one is a very good goal. Even the third one, latching on the back post, hitting that one in the onion bag as well. But yeah, young Dixon, man, getting a hat-trick, scored so many goals, the last time he was in around this league as well. I think the next game should be Millwall, U21. That is like a local derby, South London derby, whatever you want to call it. That game, should be a tough game for him. Let's see how he will perform, in that game versus Millwall. But also, want to touch on Rudolph Speed 2 from 2. Yeah, Rudolph Speed 2 from 2 in his first 2 games. Now everyone is looking at now the article published. I don't know where that quote came from, but I can't remember, Rudolph Speed saying anything around where, he's looking at local players he's going to pick. But let's hypothetically speaking, like, look, local players, which one available? Which local players at this moment, got called up, in the Grenada game, in the St. Martin game that really deserve to be in the national team coming for the World Cup qualifier game. Yeah. So let's start off with, some of these players, the keeper, Rashiki Kelson, Rabina God. Like, I'm looking at the squad that just played Martinique, and there's no way the Martinique game should be a benchmark. Yeah, I think there's so much more to international football, than that Martinique game. That game didn't even show. So we can't even analyze and really look at it like, yo, Bashi, Edban deserve to be in the team. Fuller deserve to be in the team. It was a very good game. But again, how much of an example, you can have this Martinique team, and put them up against, some of the toughest team in CONCACAF. Remove the big three. Just call, some of the big guns in Central America, Costa Rica, Honduras, and the Panamanians, somewhat Guatemala, El Salvador, Nicaragua. Yeah, put them team there to Martinique. I don't know how much Martinique local team better than a lot of these countries' local squads. You understand? I don't know, but I don't think it is the right benchmark, to judge. Or if you ask me, if the coach decides, hey, there's a few local players that I will choose for the March window. If it is the player that's going to, to bring a balance to the team, if him feel like this is a player that, can create, a very good chemistry to what he really wants, from a squad, then, I can have it. But I'm going to ask a question. Is it that player good enough to be a game changer? Yeah. Look at the DRC team. Yeah. That we will play in the final. If we get past New Caledonia, that is a giant team. Yeah. That is a giant team. How many attacking players will have in around that back line, can really even go 1v1, against a Wan-Bissaka? We don't have much attacking players in the JPL. Can go up against, the DRC wing backs or the center half. Do they need a chance? I would say everybody need a fair chance. But if I'm looking what I'm seeing week in, week out in the Jamaican Premier League, I really don't think, some of them are good enough at this level. If you go back to, I think, one of the last sets of games in the build-up to qualify for Qatar, when we play Canada in the cold. Remember that game that we played at BMO Field, where we played, so many, JPL players in that team. What happened on the big stage? Yeah? What happened on the big stage? They fall. They didn't live up to expectation. Some of them weren't good enough. People would say it was the cold. It was the temperature in Canada at the time. But I'm not saying that local players cannot do a job, because Tapper have proved it, to us in the Gold Cup, that if you put a very good team out there and strike a balance with the players playing the JPL and players that's playing outside of Jamaica, it can happen. You can find a very good chemistry. But I'm looking at the number 10s, I'm looking at the wingers, and I'm looking at German U as an example. Like, when German U was in the Jamaican Premier League, how many of these current attacking players like Maggie, the Ellis, players like this, players like even Kelson, who is a attacking creative player as well. I think I forgot Giant Thomas, National for Arnett. You have probably Daniel Green, who played an attacking role as well for Mount Pleasant. Who else? You could probably name Demara Flips, even though he's not an out-and-out attacking, creative player. But how many of these current generations playing in the JPL that are up to that standard of a German U? German U was a God-given, one of the greatest, number 10, one of the best dead ball specialists, one of the best left foot specialists in the JPL. He was such a very good, good player, and he was very good at what he can bring to the strength of the game. Yeah, you can say his weakness was off the ball, but if you name out probably 10 of the current number 10s like Ozil, you can find the same, issues as well. So I'm looking at it now, the current players. How many of the current players is up to the standard of, back then JPL players that, you're looking at, like a player like even Lovell Palmer that came through, even who for name really can call as a midfielder. Give me some names like used to play in the Premier League, in Jamaica, back then during the era of a German U. I can't think of some at this point, but I can't call of the players that's currently better than the past JPL players. So I'm just saying, man, with the JPL and people who watch the JPL knowing that the level of the players drop massively. They are not on that level. So I'm looking at it. Yes, Ruder speed going to give opportunity. How much of them players are ready for the big level? Like we use a few JPL players, in around the World Cup qualifier and also in the Gold Cup. Yeah, and I think I don't remember if it was in the Copa America, but didn't really get the opportunity. But again, when they few get the opportunity, it is the same syndrome. They just cannot live up to that expectation. So I'm very worried. I'm very worried at this moment, seeing that article. Yeah. Whether or not that article is true, but I'm very worried. I'm a very worried man at this moment. Yeah. I am a very worried man at this moment. I think I can find one of the look at the Grenada squad. I think I forgot to upload it. I think yeah. So this was the Grenada squad. Amal Knight, Kyle Ming. But start with Amal Knight. Where is Amal Knight in the selection? I think he's out of the top three at this moment. For the national team. Kyle Ming, how much is really better than what we have? Some of the top four defenders. You're looking at King, Joel, Pinnock, Damian Lowe. Currently, Mason Ogate. How much Kyle Ming can get or break through those five center half names that I just called? Yeah. Yes, those are the players that failed, in the last sets of games for the national team. But how much will you trust a Kyle Ming, someone that was the captain, in the Martin game? How much I can really trust him to pick him over one of those five names? I don't have the confidence. He's a very good player at the JPL level, but can he really cut it? Yeah, we'll see what happened in the Unity Cup. Yeah, we'll see what happened in the Unity Cup. Couple of mistakes, didn't really, show up that what he could do, at that level. Yeah, he played very well, for Cavalier, during the run, to qualify for the CONCACAF Champions League as well. Stephen Young is our next one that who is at Portmore United, arguably top two, top three best defender in the JPL this season. Goal scoring center half, not the tallest, yeah, not the most prettiest on the football. I mean, he's a player, he's going to be rugged, he's going to be very good, on either side of the set piece defensively or attacking. But again, Pinnock, Lowe, Richard, Latti, and also Ogate. How many of the center half, including even Fitzroy, Fitzroy Cummings, for Mount Pleasant, how many of those players will get the nod over one of those five names? I just cannot come up with one of those names, to be honest. And that's where at this moment. Yes, there might be one JPL players that can be in our own team. Probably it's going to be a goalkeeper, probably Tafari Chambers, and maybe that's it. But if you want to move the needle and qualify for the World Cup, we should be looking for ready product. Yeah, we should be looking for ready product in that national team. We don't need no passenger at this moment. We don't need no passenger. Yes, you can probably, spot a gem in the Jamaican Premier League and give him a moment like what we did, to Warner Brown. He was having a fantastic season during that campaign for Arnett, scored over 20 plus goals, and he get his moment, and he scored in big games, and he scored on home side, and I think didn't really play well, in the Gold Cup, which I think that was, a atrocious campaign for us. Everyone were terrible in that campaign, especially looking at Warner Brown was really pressing by himself with no foot soldiers behind of him. So I'm looking at it, man, like that article, man, talking about possibility of JP players. I'm not having it. I'm just not having it at this moment. I just cannot see any center half who really can move the needle and remove Nanalo, Pinnock, Latti, Mason, and also someone, Richard King, the other name that I'm looking for. Yeah. So looking at the midfield, Ronald Webster, I think he should get a pick. He's not a JPL player, but looking at Nicardo Ellis, yes, Nicardo Ellis, Jordan Fletcher once was a JPL player, moved away from the league. Dwayne Atkinson, they call him JPL bully, which I think it's not so correct, at times. Yes, he can be very impressive, during the JPL, but look what he did, in the build up for, I think, Cavalier to win that Caribbean Cup as well. He was very influential, for what Cavalier did during that campaign. But can he get in that winger's position? You have Bailey, who is currently fit at this moment. You have Norman Campbell, who is looking on the outside. It's been a while since him get picked. You have Cephas, Atkinson. Would you say Atkinson will get picked? Even over a player that who expect to be out of the team, Kaheem Dixon. A young Dujan Whisper Richards, who at this moment, it's 50-50. You don't even know if he's going to get called up. Yeah, you don't even know if he's going to get called up. But I'm looking at it, there's no real winger. How many of the players, even Nikhil Fuller, can get ahead of in this national team? Looking at it, you see a player like Efron Mason Clark, ready make player, really ready material, ready to explode, on the international scene for the national team. Yeah. But again, man, that is just an article that, was published, by the newspaper in Jamaica, and I'm just going off it. But I cannot see too many of these young local players, get a nod. Look, there's only thing can happen. We can only be surprised. Yeah, we can only be surprised. We can be surprised as if it will be a very good squad, or it can be a very disappointed one. Yeah, we can have a lot of surprise, or we don't have a lot of surprise in the team. That's the way, I look at it. But at this moment, I just cannot see, too many of them getting the team. Out of all respect, they are just not on that level of where we should set the next squad that's going to compete for the World Cup, and that's just the nature, of it. Who else I leave out? Warner Brown himself, like, yeah, Bailey, is not getting, the minutes at this moment. Borrell, it will be a quick turnaround when he's going to return, for QPR. Boza is out of a club. He would say he probably can get a look in over him, but you have to call Trevante Stewart him. You have to call his name. Like, the player deserve a look in. So I'm looking at it now. Warner Brown probably might be that JPL player, that get the look in over the last couple of, squads that announced by the gaffers for the national team. But will he get a look in March with, lack of football, lack of farm? What is happening with Warner Brown? I don't know. Warner Brown went to a club, over the summer, a graveyard for striker. I can only probably remember, Trevante Stewart is probably that's the only striker really, put in a very good shift for Mount Pleasant. Probably you can call Raheem Edwards' name at this moment. What's his name? Coming from Arborview. I don't remember his name. I forgot his name, playing for Mount Pleasant at this moment. So I'm looking at it like there's not real goal threat, in the league. Raheem Edwards, I think if you give him the opportunity, to play for one of those lower leagues, in Europe, like same place like, where Boza tried his journey, to become one of, a very good striker in the Belgian Pro League, probably he could score some goals, but will he score goals versus New Caledonia? Maybe, maybe not. And if you set up a very good team around him, and I said that how much of a difference is Raheem than a Warner Brown at this moment. And people would say, yes, pick Warner Brown because he have the experience, in playing the World Cup qualifier campaign. He have a little bit of experience already at the international level. But I just think it would be unfair, to pick Warner Brown over Raheem, who is currently on more of a farm, who is probably playing, more of a decent games in around the JPLs week and week out. So let's see, what will Speed do, to be honest, because I just cannot see too many of these JPL players get in the team. When you look at a player like, let's see, Ian Zerd, a very good left back, Ian Zerd, Robina Garden. As I think, for the future, these are two of the young, promising, I want to say wing backs. Is it Robina Garden really a wing back? Midfielder, he's another utility player, but if he really can stick to the guns and play as a wing back, I would say, look, if Ainsworth and Robina Garden can really get themselves, out of Jamaica real quick, soon as possible, go somewhere, where, you can bring a football to the next level. You don't want to be there, for too long, like a player like Richard King, who almost, stall his career in the JPL of not making that proper move into Europe. And I believe with, Robino, Ainsworth, I think they are two of the most young, promising wing back in around, the JPL at this moment. You understand? But is he talking about Ainsworth? Is he better than a Ronald Webster? Is he better than, a Gregley, a Maribel, a Rika Henry? No, he's not better. He's not the finishing product. But I think he might have a very good potential where if he goes to the next level real quick, he can unlock that as well. But you're talking about we need players that who are gonna do a sudden job. Yeah, we need to play them in the team for March who are gonna do a sudden job. We don't need, just like the gaffer said, there's no development stage, or there should not be a development spot in the March window for any players that's available for the national team. We need people who are gonna jump on the ship and willing to jump off in the blue water out there without a life jacket, even if you can't swim, just to make an effort, just to put in a good shift and to do the best you can to help the national team. We have too many passengers in the last 6 games, yeah? So if we can get this right, get the squad right, and I feel like this squad need a few fresh faces in our own. Yeah, this squad need a few fresh faces. I think we can really stomach this squad to be the same squad that we use in the November, October, and September window. I think we can stomach. As well, the newly interim head coach said, some people have forgot dead, some people drown, some people have forgot suffer. Yeah, because them just cannot see the squad. And that's what I want to hear. Like, the coach have to be ruthless. I think gonna be ruthless. Some man have to get dropped. Some man have to leave behind. That's the nature of the game. We don't need no friend. We don't need to be, as close attached to anybody at this moment. At this moment, dog, we need to be that lion in the jungle. Yeah, we need to be that jaguar paw. We need to be that shark in the sea where, anything come, we're going to be very aggressive and we're going to take down our prey and make sure that, listen, we do the best and give ourselves the best shot so we can face Cristiano Ronaldo in that group stage in the World Cup as well. You understand? So people, bless up on yourself. You understand? As checking in as usual. Really appreciate you guys being here as well. Like up the video, Robson, he didn't even play the other youngster. Yeah, I mean, coach in survival mode. Yeah, Monga didn't get any games as Jordan Ayew and also Fatahu came back. And he decided to go with them straight off the bench, even though they're not 100, but he gave them a few minutes in the last 30 minutes as well. You understand? Dixon is still behind Norman Campbell and Kaim Paris. If those two players not in the squad are straight bias. I totally agree with you. At this moment. I think it was straight up criminal for Dixon to get constant pick over Norman Campbell when he was in the Danish Super League. Yeah, I think it was just too much of a criminal move by Steve McLaren. The player shows that, listen, Donga Honduras, him create magic for you. And I think at him, why one of the goals score? Was it the own goal that Maldonado scored on himself, for Honduras? Was it the own goal where Norman Campbell, crossed the ball into the box and it ricocheted, or it was a flick by Mikel Antonio? I don't remember. I remember him beat, Joseph Rosales, the left wing back on the touchline, emphatic way, with his skill set. So let's see, man. New coach don't believe in whisper. Let's see if the coach don't believe in him. But the coach, as what Rob Smith said, the coach is in survival mode, man. Leicester is too much of a big club to be playing, League One football. Andy King more believe in him. And I will give you that as well. Andy King, is there. Probably, was in around, the boardroom as well when they were looking at which youngsters they can take from a Premier League club that can come in and do the business trade away for Leicester City. I believe if Andy King was there will probably be more of opportunity. But this coach, seeing them bringing a survival mode coach, a coach that normally fight the relegation battles. I think his last 5 job, he have got sacked 4 times in his position as well. Survival mode for Leicester City. I think they're in survival mode playing vet just to survive. Yeah, best up 876 Jamrock as usual. Blessed Roderick Peter King. You understand? Big up on yourself in the comment section. Jay said, the world has just moved on further than us. I believe so as well. I think, look, when I look at some of the players that have been developed in around this region, especially in America as well, and somewhat in Costa Rica, they are just on a different level. They are just on a different level. When you look at some of the youngsters, what them country they really are do. Yeah, what them country they really are do what we are doing. People, well, I'm just take that one call, that 1 second, the people out there. Yeah, so I'm saying, where the country them in a Central America and some in America, I mean, I know the American, the infrastructure is much greater than what we have locally, but say Trinidad have a football home, say Panama just create another one, Honduras have one, and them are gonna build on that as well. So there's a few countries, doing some development. Yes, we qualify for a U17 World Cup. Yes, we hear speed and different members of the coaching education as well, saying that they're doing their best to educate the coaches more and more into a higher gear, where I think it should have been way above this level already, but never too late. But let's see if them really serious on this development when it comes on to coach and the players. Where will the National Academy be in the next 5 to 10 years? Let's see. Big up, Jamaican family as usual. CW underscore 999. It's probably frustrating to see him not playing, but the relegation fight is the main focus for Leicester. Don't get it mistaken. We deeply appreciate the support from Jamaica. We are very grateful. I think that is the Leicester fan as well. Yeah, I mean, that's all we can do, but we all see what is going on at this moment, for Leicester. It's just, survival mode, and the coach, he's going to put players, who have been in around the situation or have some type of experience. And when you look, literally almost all of them players, have more experience than Dujan. But we are waiting upon the player forget his next game, and let's see what the player will do. Will it be the game at home with, I think, that game at home versus Norwich? That should be a straight up 3 points for Leicester City, and to actually probably give a few players, a run out in the last quarter of the game, probably going into that 70-75 minute, leading 2-0, 3-0. We see them give up, a 3-0 lead advantage at Southampton, and they fold under the circumstance of pressure. But people, we're on the hour mark. Big up on yourself. Thanks for passing through as usual. You understand? See you guys. I don't shit. I will not be here tomorrow. My son have a function, and I have to be there. So you don't know, family come first. So more likely I won't be here tomorrow, but I will definitely be here on Thursday discussing that crucial second leg in Turkey. Skengia versus Samsung Sport. Ronald Webster should be on display in that game. But I will discuss what I left out miss, on Wednesday, and bring it to you guys as usual. But people, thanks for passing through. Really appreciate your service. Check out the Morning Insider video tomorrow, and also Thursday will be another live match reaction from the boys playing midweek football. But let's see, finger crossed, hopefully the man who coach run the black and white team can really get it done and really get a good job in around the next 2 games coming up for the national team, so we can all be smile and merry walking into that World Cup with our chest high in the year potentially could face a CR7 in the opening game of the World Cup champion for the national team, and that will be huge. Yeah, that will be huge for the national team. But people, walk with grace as we are heading out with the rhythm. So let's up on yourself, people. Thanks for passing through, man. Really appreciate your service. On your way out, like up the video, subscribe. The new ones, them subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate it, people. Out.